Good evening, everybody. I'm Carol Bradshaw. I'm the lead for Energies, Utilities and Resources for PwC here in Australia, and I'm based here in Perth. Where else? But I'm delighted to welcome you all to AusIMM's Thought Leadership Series. And PwC and AusIMM, we have a long-standing partnership, and it's great to be working together once again on this Thought Leadership Series. Here at PwC, we recognise and celebrate the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and the histories as proud part of our shared national identity. I'd like to begin by paying my respects to the traditional custodians of the lands of which we're meeting today. In Perth, we're on the traditional lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation and pay our respects to the elders past and present, and I recognise their ongoing cultural connection to our country. I'd like to welcome the special guests, the Honourable David Michael MLA, Minister for Mines and Petroleum, Finance, Electoral Affairs and Goldfields Esperance, AusIMM's President Chris Carr, the CEO Stephen Durkin, and members of the AusIMM board and management team. Welcome. And of course, to our moderator and our panellists, Joanne Parfumi from AusIMM, Andrew Atkinson from Sandvik, Neil Goodman from Hilt CRC, Tim Kennefick from Weir, and Jai Keller from Fleet. We're delighted to have so many people joining us for the leading conversation on the latest big picture thinking in our industry. Tonight, our expert panel will be sharing their perspectives on capability, technology and leadership. As organisations rapidly adopt advanced technologies, a growing gap is emerging between technology and our workforce readiness. Our panel will explore how organisations can close this gap by aligning technology investment with human capability, effective leadership and fit-for-purpose operating models. It's going to be a fascinating discussion. I would like to make special mention of our valued partners and our supporters of tonight's evening. So thank you to BHP, Burncut, Fleet Space Technologies, Sandvik, Sedgman, SGME, SRK, Weir, Xylem, and of course, ourselves, PwC. It's fantastic to see the room so full and so much support behind this popular series, which has become a feature of AusIMM's annual calendar. So it's my great pleasure to now introduce AusIMM's CEO, Stephen Durkin. He's an engineer by background. He spent 20 years in corporate leadership roles, and for the past 15 years, Stephen has been leading member-based professional associations include Engineering Australia and AusIMM, the peak body for resource professionals. Stephen will introduce AusIMM, and set the scene for tonight's discussion. Please welcome Stephen.
Thanks, Carol. Well, yes, great pleasure to welcome you all this evening to the launch of our 2026 Thought Leadership Series, proudly led by AusIMM, the peak body for professionals in our sector and the trusted voice of our industry. Hosted by PwC, our integral partner for our Thought Leadership Series. We're extremely proud of and appreciative of our long-standing collaboration. And we tonight acknowledge yourself, Carol, as well as Justin Eve, lead partner. Hi, Justin. And in fact, the whole PwC team sitting behind this great program. So on behalf of AusIMM, Chair of our board and President of AusIMM, Chris Carr, Perth-based Chris Carr, and our local Perth management team, led by Ali Muir, our National Head of Strategic Relationships, Greg Bowes, Rhianna Muir, no relation, who are our local industry and partnership leads. A warm welcome and thanks for being here. The nature of our Thought Leadership Series is that there are a lot of esteemed leaders in the room. First and foremost, I'd like to formally welcome WA Resources Minister, the Honourable David Michael, who we'll hear from in a moment. A privilege to have you join us. We really appreciate it. The Minister, of course, joined us here last week in Perth at GRX in what was a super busy week for yourself, we know, so we appreciate you making the time. Budget week, a budget which incidentally left no doubt in the minds of everyone here in Perth that the government sees our industry as being essential, not just for the state here in WA, but Australia as a whole. As I'll explain in a moment, we don't think we have a panel that has all the answers, but we do want to create an environment where we have conversations and discussions with everyone in the room who we all see as thought leaders. I'd like to change gears a little bit and put forward some perspectives and observations to frame tonight's conversation. I think any thought leadership conversation at this point in time necessarily needs to reference the external environment that we're operating in, and the way that AusIMM sees it, that external environment has changed massively in the past few months. It's moved from what we would categorise as an environment where there's uncertainty and caution to one where we feel that we're in now a sustained period of disruption. From geopolitical instability to new trade boundaries and increased economic pressures, there can be no doubt that global shocks, rather than simply disturbing our landscape, are now defining our landscape. With global conflicts creating further fragmentation and feeding into new forms of competition, like supply chain shocks and impacts on global fuel supplies. I was really taken by an article that I was reading literally today that reminded us that in the past 6 months we've had the incident relating to Charlie Kirk, or the assassination of Charlie Kirk, Israel-Hamas ceasefire, Bondi shooting, capturing of the Venezuela president, unrest in Iran, and the fuel crisis. And the thesis of this body of work carried out by a social economic consulting group is that for more than a quarter of Australians, the world doesn't feel safe right now. Anxiety and frustration are now higher than they were in March 2020. The younger generations are more likely to be feeling negative emotions, and 7 in 10 Australians are changing their behaviour as a response to the unrest. Our world, as we are experiencing it today, is shaped by the perfect storm of political uncertainty, market fluctuations, economic turbulence, leading to extreme volatility. And there's no doubt in the minds of the view of AusIMM that we're moving now into this sustained period of disruption, being described by some commentators as a permacrisis. The point being it's more than a mere transition. In this new era, uncertainty will be the new norm. Rather than a cycle, we'll work our way through this uncertainty as we're seeing it is now structural. The way we see it, we're entering into a decade of disorientation. And against this backdrop, advances in digital capability, automation, digitalisation, and the implementation of AI in particular are acting as key accelerators in this new era of volatility and disruption. No longer simply tools of productivity, but now enabling rapid systemic change. As an example of that expected impact, the UN predicts that the global AI market will see a 20-fold increase in the next decade. And our panel tonight will wrestle with the critical challenge before us. In this era of disruption and rupture, how can technology and AI become true enablers of performance, resilience, and long-term sustainable growth? And equally importantly, in terms of the panel and the conversation the panel will have, what are the leadership settings needed to become true architects of this new world order? Because despite years of significant AI investment, the consensus among experts is that the world is not fully prepared for the scale and the speed of this new AI wave. So tonight's conversation is all about capability, technology, and leadership. And a key question I'd like to pose to the panel tonight is whether as a sector and as leaders, we're really ready for this new AI wave. All of which brings us back tonight to our thought leadership event series. Now in its 9th year, hosted all around the country. It's designed, as I said earlier, to bring you together, leaders from across the resources sector, to challenge thinking, spark curiosity, garner diversity of thought, and look to the opportunities ahead. 5 events over several months under the banner of Digital Minds, Diverse Minds, quite a mouthful, as Joe and I laughed about earlier, powering the global shift. With our first event, the launch of our 2026 series here tonight in Perth, home of Australian mining, Silicon Valley of the world's mining industry, exploring, as I said, capability, technology and leadership, then closing the series out in Perth in November with a conversation about global competitiveness. In closing, the way AusIMM sees it in this era of prolonged disruption, there's never been a more important time for resources leaders to come together to discuss and debate the challenging environment and to navigate this new normal. And of course, as a peak body for professionals in resources, AusIMM has been advancing careers, inspiring leadership, upholding professional standards, connecting communities and bringing professionals together for now over 130 years. So tonight, I invite us all to be a part of a conversation that will move beyond simply responding to the disruption we're experiencing and turn our attention to a proactive, future-ready mindset, rather than just managing the immediate crises, treating this new era of volatility and disruption as an opportunity to build long-term structural advantage for our state and our country. To guide us through our conversation tonight will be series moderator Joanne Perfumi. Jo is an experienced corporate affairs professional, led teams across Australian mining, mets and energy, and Jo will introduce our panel shortly. Before Jo, I would like to it's my great pleasure to introduce the Honourable David Michael. Minister Michael was elected member of Balcatta in March 2017 and appointed a Minister of Western Australia in 2023. Great supporter of AusIMM, wonderful champion of our industry, and as I shared, most generously shared his leadership perspective at our Global Resources Innovation Expo last week. For now, thank you from me and from AusIMM. Have a great evening, and it's my great pleasure to welcome Minister Michael to the stage. Thanks.
Thanks, Stephen. It's great to be here. Good crowd on a Thursday night as well. It's a special privilege to be on Whadjuk Noongar land this evening. Can I acknowledge AusIMM, Stephen, Chris, the team for putting on events like this. Obviously as well with GRX 26 last week, it's a lot of work goes into it, and obviously the work that goes into to bringing people together to discuss the industry, skills, training, everything else that you do, safety on mines and in the resource industry is very important. To PwC, to Carol and to Justin, and for making the facilities available, and all the sponsors, thank you. Welcome to all of you in the room tonight, here in Perth, Western Australia, for the opening of AusIMM's 9th Thought Leadership Series. I understand we're being broadcast to a global audience, so good morning, good afternoon or good evening to wherever you are. Next time you should come here to Perth. That's from the Tourism Minister. Good evening and thank you wherever you are. I'm starting to feel a bit like I'm part of the AusIMM community. Given it was only last week I attended the Global Resources Innovation Expo GRX 26. It was at GRX 26 that I had the opportunity to discuss my thoughts with Stephen on Western Australia's role in the global resources sector. And now, with my heart on my sleeve and as a parochial West Aussie, my message was clear. West Australia is the centre of the universe for all things resource sector related. Perhaps I wasn't so blunt last week, but I am now. Our abundance of natural resources, including critical minerals, rare earth, sun and wind, make us the envy of the world. However, what I'm most proud of is our sector's drive to innovate and create opportunities within our state and export these ideas globally. Of course, this takes great leadership within the sector to test new concepts, fail, and bounce back to apply new learnings to deliver successful outcomes. We are operating in a more complex global environment than ever before that Stephen went through. I've downloaded Truth Social. That's how complex it is. Shifting trade settings, geopolitical tensions, competition for capital, skills and technology are the waters needing to be navigated right now, as well as the Strait. This is all happening as global demand for minerals underpinning decarbonisation, advanced manufacturing and stronger supply chains is accelerating. Therefore, I welcome this year's Thought Leadership Series themes, bridging the capability gap and competing globally, as I know that by coming together, we can address these challenges collaboratively. Workforce capability, leadership and readiness are central to WA's long-term competitiveness as we adapt to automation, digital mining and decarbonisation. To support that shift, the state government places great value on partnerships, collaboration with industry and professional bodies in areas that address the highest possible safety standards, the broadest of inclusion policies, professional standards and workforce participation is of utmost importance to our government. WA's competitive advantage lies in trust. We have robust regulatory frameworks that uphold high environmental, safety and governance standards. As a reliable and responsible trading partner, WA is well positioned in a world where the security of supply is becoming increasingly critical. So I commend AusIMM for its leadership in continuing to strengthen professional standards, ethical conduct and capability across our resource sector. This complements the state government's ongoing work to lift skills, improve performance and ensure WA remains trusted and globally competitive mining jurisdiction. I'm going to leave the speech for a second. Thought leadership, not something I talk about often, and I suspect some of you may not as well, and that's why I really want to commend tonight and for coming out on a Thursday night in autumn in Perth. We all have busy jobs. I know all of you do, I do, and all of your colleagues, wherever you're from, do as well. Sometimes we don't have a chance to talk to each other. And I know some of you might be competitors or, there's things you can't talk about. But in our industry, we're going to need more mines, not less, more exploration, not less, more engineers, not less. So talking to each other, working out what works and what doesn't, coming together, sharing your experiences and innovations mean we're going to have an exceptional mining sector into the future to make sure the WA industry stays strong, the Australian industry stays strong, and with the things we have under the ground in our country and in this state, making sure we help the world decarbonise. Thanks, everyone.